So this is the 34th film, I believe, in the MCU, the long-awaited follow-up directed by Shawn Levy, who I believe did one of the previous films. So we find Deadpool, as we know him in the Fox universe. I'm going to try to not get into the weeds too much. He is captured by the TVA, which we know from would have to watch the Loki shows. The TVA is the Time Variance Authority, and they manage the multiple timelines of the multiverse, keep everything in check and in line. They inform Deadpool that, hey, your timeline is coming to an end. It's gonna be we're gonna have to prune it. It's gonna have to be destroyed. Sorry, but we think you're important, so we're keeping you. He escapes. He finds some help he needs a Wolverine to help him save his universe. He kind of does a lot of universe jumping to find just the right one. Eventually lands on a Hugh Jackman that we know and love, and they actually get tossed into yet another conflict where they're thrown into a place called the Void and have to fight a bunch of other superheroes and anti-heroes, mutants, to escape there, save their world. The plot is a little thin beer. That's not really what this movie is about. This movie is about a lot of fan service, and I say that in a positive way. There's a ton of cameos that we've seen. Deadpool, of course, is the merc with the mouth. There's lots of jokes, lots of humor, lots of crude humor at that, and again, lots of fight scenes and lots of fun CGI. Lots going on. A lot of this works, some of it doesn't. We'll get into it. Zach, what'd you think?
So I think Deadpool and Wolverine is in a funny position because it has to try to like hold up what the Marvel universe has kind of been building to and make fun of it and point us at that and laugh at that, but also be the third Deadpool movie, figure out a way to bring back Wolverine, try not to be mean about Logan, which Deadpool has always been pretty soft hands around. In Deadpool 2, they had a whole joke with a statue and the whole thing. There's a lot to do. And I think Deadpool and Wolverine does that stuff really well. I actually think it navigates those waters pretty effectively, but I also think it's a bit of a one-trick pony. I think it's best experienced first time through. I think its rewatchability is going to be a little limited. I think you need to go see it before anything gets spoiled for you. And we're not spoiling anything here on this show. We don't do that. No spoilers here. But I think it's difficult to talk about because some of its best moments are things that surprise first time around that you really get to experience. And while it's chock full of that kind of stuff, we won't be able to kind of tell you what any of that is here. And it limits discussion. I feel like most of the reviews I've seen for Deadpool and Wolverine have had some kind of spoiler section near or on the end or some kind of footnote or addendum because people want to talk about some of the cameos, some of the exciting stuff that happens in this feature. And for a 2-hour run, it's a lot of fun, a lot of laughs, joke a minute, but also I don't know. I don't think they can keep getting away with this. They can't turn Marvel movies into this. They can't like adapt this format into something like the Avengers aren't going to be doing what's happening in Deadpool and Wolverine. What's here is fun. I don't know how much runway it's got. That's what I think of Deadpool and Wolverine. So let's jump into it. What's the best place to start talking about it?
I want to start on the narrative side of this, which I've said is a little weak. You have kind of two antagonists. You have the TVA who's saying we got to cut your timeline, and then they get thrown into this other world. And one of the things about this is it feels like I'm watching Saturday Night Live. We have a bunch of individual sketches or like 10 minutes of a scene that's funny, entertaining, some action, but then it doesn't all piece together. Like I feel like I'm watching a sketch show, and I kept waiting for the movie to start. I was like, any minute now. All right, we're ending Act 1. Still waiting to get started into Act 2. Halfway through, still wait. Like it feels like it's constantly getting started, and we never like, okay, what's our conflict? What's our antagonist? Like it's narratively really weak, and it's leaning heavily on like the jokes and the cameos and things like that. And one of the things I was saying just before the show is that a lot of these jokes you will need to be like over 35 to understand, because a lot of it is referencing things that are almost 30 years old, 25 years old, inside jokes, inside jokes between studios, or this guy was supposed to play this character and never really happened, like jokes related to that kind of things, kind of like in last year's The Flash movie when Nicolas Cage showed up as CGI Superman in a reference to that Superman project that never kind of came to pass. There's a lot of stuff like that like you're not going to get if you're younger. And Zach's absolutely right. Like you cannot do this more than once, and you cannot keep doing this. Like you can't make a bunch of in jokes and a bunch of cameos endlessly. Like it works in this movie. You probably can't do it again.
I do think there's a bit of an emotional heart at the center of Deadpool and Wolverine. The film opens with Wade Wilson, our Deadpool, basically trying to get a job as an Avenger. That's kind of where we're starting with him because things are on the rocks with his girlfriend again, just like the last couple of movies, Morena Baccarin who returns. And he's just trying to feel like what he does matters. And outside the suit, Wade Wilson is snarky, but he's a bit more like a lost puppy. Like you kind of feel bad for him a little bit because he doesn't really have a place. He's not really a hero. And that fits pretty good alongside this Wolverine that we're getting in this movie, because in an effort to kind of pay homage to Logan and stay away from that where the movie can, at least, we're getting a Logan from a different X-Men multiverse universe, right? Tapping into that multiverse, and we can get anybody from anywhere. And this Logan didn't do a great job of saving his people. So Deadpool doesn't feel like he has a place as a hero. This Logan does not feel like he has a very good place as a hero. And while that gives Ryan Reynolds some space in the open to be emotional. For the most part, he's got the costume on, he's got the mask on, it's fine. Jackman, however, is still serving, dude. Jackman's great. Jackman's got a couple of great monologues in this movie, and it totally works. The things he's saying is ridiculous. He's talking about the multiverse and God knows what, but it's still delivered with conviction. Like his scenes are still solid. Tons of fun. And additionally, I want to mention a few of the cameos in this movie feel genuinely heartfelt. They're goofy, sure, but they're all treated with respect. And everybody that shows up in this mostly has a chance to shine, like in their own special way. They're given pretty heartfelt send-offs for what they are. Like, I feel like all that works pretty good. The stuff that doesn't work is like the in-between and our setting, which is this just kind of like trash heap void of an area, like kind of like out of Mad Max.
It's a
Fury
Road
look
section,
as good.
yeah.
Yeah, but it looks worse than Fury Road. I don't know. Director Shawn Levy, formerly did Free Guy. He's definitely not a stranger to working on big sets like this, working with big ideas. But it definitely does not look as good as something like Mad Max. It comes off looking a little flatter, I think, which is fine.
We have Fury Road at home.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
yeah. I did want to talk about Jackman is excellent. He is bringing like Oscar level acting to this role, like way more than it deserves. And my only problem with that is not with him, but he's got this very tragic kind of backstory of how he kind of failed his universe, and it's all just told through dialogue. And I'm like, why are we telling and not showing? I was expecting like to have a cut or a flashback to the things he's talking about, which would have been really powerful. Like it's some really good like comic book kind of stuff. No, he just talks about it. We never see it. I was like, why you have all the money in the world, why did you not depict this on screen? It would have been amazing. So it's like those kinds of choices. And yeah, when we get to the void, like this looks like we're in someone's backyard. Like this looks really kind of bad for something, even as something that's usually filmed on the volume or on a green screen. I'm just like, what are we doing here? Again, waiting for the movie to get going.
Yeah, and it gets away with a lot of it through the script, right? We've got this kind of antagonist TVA character played by Matthew McFadden from Succession and the old Pride and Prejudice, right? That guy, Mr. Darcy.
Yep.
And he's fun in this movie for what he is, but he's definitely not as rough and tumble as everybody else. He's very staunch and stand up, and he's got an accent, and it's going to be this way, and that's fine. But between that, like we don't get all that many places for things to happen in this movie. We get some recycled sets, which is fine. It plays pretty safe. I think what it does is it tries to leverage the script for a lot of this stuff. You talk about this space where ideas are discarded, and you see that like 20th Century Fox logo thing in the background, which is funny, but alienates a lot of people. You mentioned earlier that it feels like anybody under the age of 35 wouldn't get half these jokes, and I think that's true. Like, it is a joke a minute script. Through the whole first act, I was thinking of like Airplane. And then later it starts to feel more like Austin Powers because it is a superhero movie that's spoofing superhero movies. Like Austin Powers was a secret agent movie that's spoofing James Bond secret agent movies. It definitely feels like it wanders pretty far off the mark. But I do think, with that being said, I do think it's better than like Deadpool 2, which I feel like I've seen people say, no, Deadpool 2's got Cable in it and that's fun. But like, dude, I can't remember hardly anything about Deadpool 2. At least this movie, I think, with Deadpool and Wolverine being a truly good matchup for heroes. They're a lot of fun together. They bounce off each other real good. I think you get like much better chemistry, and I think you do get a better feature for it. But I don't think I don't think you do this lightning in a bottle twice. It works exactly once, and I think they've leveraged it kind of perfect for what's here. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a joke a minute. A lot of them, like I said, the dialogue feels like a 13-year-old who just discovered swear words. They say the F word a lot because it's rated R, and they can, and it seems excessive. But again, there's a lot of violence, a lot of swearing, no romance, no kind of sexual anything. Everyone has their shirt on the entire time, just about. So it's, you can still tell it's like a Disney movie. They don't want anyone getting excited in their movies. Their chemistry does work pretty well with Hugh Jackman playing the straight man to Deadpool. We get a bunch of fight scenes that are really kind of forced. Like we see them fight each other a couple of times. We see them team up and take on other people. Those are kind of hit and miss. Some of them are pretty good and entertaining. But they're mostly entertaining when they're funny, when there's a lot of jokes and kind of cameo gags pulled into that. But like on their own, there's a little bit of like, why are we fighting again, other than to just like, it feels like people smashing their action figures together, unless like these characters need to have a conflict in order to move the story forward and somehow.
Yeah. And for a 2-hour runtime, like, I don't think that's terrible, right? It's summer. We're at the movies. We're eating popcorn. We want to turn our brain off. We just want to watch something fun. Deadpool and Wolverine's a good time. I think it's good. I really do. But I don't know if I'll be revisiting it anytime soon. I feel like I kind of got,
No.
I got everything out of it in one pass. I think most people will be that way. You may go tell your friends, man, it's a ton of fun. Go see it. But in the next few weeks, as the cameos get rolled out on Twitter and you can see screenshots of everybody who's in it and behind the scenes of how this actor is appearing in Deadpool and Wolverine and thought that their thing was never going to get revived again, like all of that loses its luster, and pretty soon what's left at the core of it is a good superhero movie. And that's all it needs to be, I think, especially considering how much money it's making. But like James Gunn's Guardians films, like, I don't know if they get away with more of these. I feel like this feels like a pretty good close off for like our little Deadpool trilogy with Ryan Reynolds. I don't know, Andy, are we seeing more Deadpool in the future? Do you think Marvel learns anything from this? And then I guess we'll roll into recommendations.
You can't make $1 billion movie and not expect them to follow up. Like you can only do the cameo stuff once. A lot of the jokes, because a lot of people have said this is like a love letter to 20th Century Fox and all those projects that were or never came to be, and it's kind of like saying farewell. And we have moved both Deadpool and Wolverine into the MCU, so I mean, you definitely got to bring them back. Like they're too profitable not to. The question is kind of how does Deadpool have his own movies, or do you just roll him into some sort of team film, which I think at this point might actually work a little bit better.
Yeah. Oh, I would bet Disney's working on a team film right now. I think they probably feel the same way. Well, I don't know if it'll work again. I think what works here is good. The question is, Andy, would you recommend Deadpool and Wolverine?
I would recommend it to fans of superhero films. If you've watched the rest of the MCU stuff or even a casual thing, you're going to have a good time. I definitely laughed, and there was good action. It's funny. The cameos are a lot of fun, but this part of the reason the movie only works once is like the surprise is half the bit. Narratively, it's pretty weak. It's a little confusing about what's going on. There's too many antagonists. The plot's kind of convoluted. Maybe it doesn't matter in the end, but I was definitely kind of bored for about the first hour, and I kept waiting for the movie to start. But overall, I'd recommend.
I'm a little warmer on it. I think it's a good time. I do think you should go see it ASAP, and you should try to avoid the internet for as long as possible between now and then, because everything that gets spoiled for you takes a significant chunk out of this movie. The cameos, that stuff is a lot of fun. The jokes, and if they're ruined for you, I think it's a lot less fun. I don't think it works as good second time around. But for what's here, flash in the pan, a lot of fun. Deadpool 3. Not too shabby. Would recommend. And with that, we should move into our middle segment of the episode. Andy, what do we typically call this?
It's time for the trailer park.